today. Are you tired of being insulted in Fortnite? Have you tried getting good? This is CheckPoint.
Welcome to CheckPoint.
Today, we're going to test our freaky couple twin speak.
He knows what I'm thinking about.
Slow burn fanfic.
They're going to hold hands soon.
And she knows what I'm thinking about.
Elden Ring bingo brawlers.
Yeah.
Perfectly calibrated. It's time for the circle to repeat because Atari is relaunching the Infogrames brand. That's right, Atari, the brand that was bought by French publisher Infogrames in 2000 as part of a package deal because they were also buying Hasbro Interactive. Yes, the same Atari, the brand that the failing company Infogrames decided to wear like a coat when it reformed as Atari SA in 2009. So yes, the French video game holding company Atari, who happens to have a famous name that has been fully Ship of Theseus several times over at this point, is soft launching its true and secret name, Infogrames, as a publishing arm, and it intends to expand its portfolio primarily through acquisition. The Embracer strategy. This sounds great. I definitely think this move won't make Atari's horrifically confusing Wikipedia page any better, any worse.
Epic has decided that Fortnite could stand to be a little less toxic, and since they'd never remove a paying customer for being a bit of a shit, they're doing what they have decided is the next best thing, removing their emotes, kind of. It's weird. Look, they've added a toggle to see confrontational emotes that will allow players to simply not perceive if another player is being mean at them. Currently, they've determined that 4 emotes are confrontational, 2 of which are being used as racist dog whistles, which I personally would put in a different category than, say, teabagging, but mercifully I don't work at Epic. The other 2, laugh it up and take the L, are just ways to make fun of someone you eliminated and are operating as intended. In the past, Epic has offered V-Bucks to players who own emotes that have been removed or later bundled into a discount, but that won't be happening this time, which is causing some consternation when the point was to be confrontational. That's why people bought them, to make fun of players that they had beaten. And look, this is why it's a stupid idea. Hiding these confrontational emotes is going to have 2 possible outcomes, and neither of them are gamers will stop being mean. Either different emotes become the de facto I'm making fun of you maneuver, as happens with seemingly benign emotes in literally any online game, or, my hope, the mockery meta will evolve to a state where standing there conspicuously not emoting becomes the shorthand for I'm using one of the banned emotes, and that now is the detestable behavior. Just standing there, menacingly. So good job, Epic. You haven't solved your problem, you've merely created a different one that's harder to moderate.
You've walked him into Goombas, run him off cliffs, and even made him jump into lakes of lava. But through all of his digital suffering, did you ever consider, does Mario feel pain? This is the question The Verge's Andrew Webster posed this week to Nintendo developer Takashi Tezuka, who has worked on the Mario franchise since before Luigi had his own sprite. Takashi replied with a cryptic non-answer, letting fans know that while Nintendo would prefer that their players aren't psychopaths, Mario can't do anything about it either way, so the best response is for us to feel his pain for him in whatever fractional way we can between cursing ice physics and piranha plants. Amazing. How long are we going to have to wait for another metaphysical peek into Mario's world? Are we going to learn next that Toad has a Jungian sense of self? Maybe Lemmy ascribes to the philosophy of utilitarianism and recognizes that true peace can only come at the expense of Mario's life. All we know is that philosophy undergrads are eating well today.
Last week, some Warhammer 40k fans were outraged when Games Workshop replied to a tweet asking, "Why did you make female custodies?" by saying, "Since the first of the 10,000 were created, there have always been female custodians." The controversy, which was kicked off by a character in the newly released Codex Adeptus Custodes army book who uses feminine pronouns, eventually filled in every square on the internet bullshit bingo card, including accusations that Games Workshop was gaslighting fans by retconning existing lore, suggesting that Amazon was forcing Games Workshop to make the setting more woke as a condition of Henry Cavill's upcoming series, explicitly anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and even a story in the Daily Mail sporting the headline, It's Wokehammer. The Custodians are far from the first Warhammer 40k faction to receive background changes, and are not even the first faction to be changed from being exclusively male. Imperial Knights received this change in exactly the same way with their 8th edition codex in 2018. Also in 2018, Aaron Dembski-Bowden, author of 14 Warhammer 40k novels, including The Master of Mankind, which deals extensively with the origin and culture of the Legio Custodes, answered a question posted on the 40k lore subreddit asking, would female custodians be possible, by saying, quote, some of us had this discussion behind the scenes since, lore-wise, there is no reason why it wouldn't be possible. It came down to a former IP overlord saying, no, because the minis are finished and they're all male. So, have there always been female custodians? Yes and no. Games Workshop is retconning the setting to say there always have been, reversing previous lore that only existed to retroactively justify an exclusively male product line. A cost and manufacturing limitation dictating the lore. And if I was a 40k fan, I'd be much more upset about that.
Embracer Group is finally learning to let go of its name. The beleaguered mega company, which spent several years and countless millions trying to acquire its way into multinational conglomerate status, has been having what market experts call a rough time since a $2 billion deal for additional funding fell through in 2023. And now, several $100 million of divestments later, Embracer itself will soon be no more, opting to divide what's left of its massive portfolio between 3 separate but still huge and publicly traded companies. First up will be the cumbersomely named Middle-earth Enterprises and Friends, which will get the Dead Island, Killing Floor, Lord of the Rings, Metro, and Tomb Raider IPs, and is going to focus on AAA development and consoles. Second is Coffee Stain and Friends, which kind of includes publishing premium and free-to-play games, and they'll get the IPs for Deep Rock Galactic, Goat Simulator, Satisfactory, Valheim, and according to the press release, 200 other titles. The third company is going to be Asmodee, one of the biggest players in the global board game scene, both as a distributor and publisher of small indie games like Catan and Ticket to Ride. Unlike the other two companies, Asmodee will also get almost €1 billion of debt, thanks to only what can be described as accounting shenanigans that will see Embracer taking a €900 million loan against Asmodee's assets so that Embracer can pay off almost $850 million that it has in debt and credit facilities and then leave Asmodee to foot the bill. That seems like a shit deal, but surely there's a way to make an extra $1 billion in the board game industry, which is of course notoriously high-margined and extremely profitable. Fuck.
The ESA, which we remind you every time, is a lobbyist group funded by all the biggest gaming companies to keep the government from regulating them too hard, is not your friend or even working slightly in your interest. We've reported before about their attempts to slow or halt efforts in the field of video game preservation, with the ESA alleging it would be best to leave that to the publishers, as if a gaming publisher would ever do anything that didn't make them money. If a game dev caught fire, the publisher would not even piss on that fire to put it out if it didn't add stockholder value. So it's no surprise that ongoing hearings with the US Copyright Office keep being held up by the ESA and their refusal to compromise. Now, since reporting on this story, GameDeveloper.com received a letter from the ESA alleging that they really do want to preserve games. Quote, it's important to note that ESA and its members are committed to the historical preservation of games. In spite of their lawyers sandbagging a public hearing that none of you are going to watch because it was incredibly dull. I did try, but no. Apart from anything else, Phil Sandoval of the Video Game History Foundation pointed out that most libraries lack the staff, technology, time, or funding to even do this. But ESA lawyer Steve Englund said there is, quote, no combination of limitations ESA members would support to provide remote access. As if they think a universally accessible and free Xbox Game Pass will just appear with every game that's ever existed. And the rest of the panel were desperately trying to make placating concessions. What if only accredited researchers are allowed access? No, says the ESA, because these institutions will just rubber stamp those accreditations. Well, what if it was limited to institutions with a physical address? No, says the ESA, because you could just write any old address down and say that that's your physical space. The ESA is arguing that allowing libraries and researchers access to video games, even video games the companies aren't currently supporting or selling, is a violation of their copyrights and a threat to the company's ability to monetize their intellectual property. And I mean, it's hard to argue. Ever since the library of Ashurbanipal was built in Assyria in the 7th century, nobody has ever bought a book. And that was CheckPoint.
What do you want to get for lunch?
You're supposed to know this.
Smoked meat sandwich.
On a Thursday?
Our calibration's a lie. Coming up, the latest Minecraft update is out, so make sure you keep your wolves safe by brushing scoots off the armadillos. Which is a sentence that I am assured makes sense to someone.
They're called scoots. Wait, down.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, so I got distracted looking at my phone because I went to check a notification, and then for something, because I'm a goblin, I was like, well, look at Twitter, and then I saw, I don't know why, just, and it was depths of Wikipedia, and there was a tweet about how Franz's list was a total smoke show. So I was like, I need to see a picture of Franz's list. And yes, extremely hot.
I learned that one of the plates on an armadillo is called a scoot. Oh. So, we're all learning stuff today.
That's what the Phoenix song is about.
The what?
Listomania?
Yeah.
Listomania.
Yeah, I thought you, sorry. I was like,
song.
Sorry, yes, about lists. I was like, about armadillo scoots?
No.
That's why I was
thinking about my romantic composers.
That's why I was so confused. You might have noticed there's a couple more stories this week.
Yes.
Yeah, we're trying something out. So shout out to Nelson, who wrote the Mario story. And can you guess, viewer at home, who wrote the Warhammer 40K story? Yes, it was Cameron.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah. So not necessarily any promises or guarantees going forward, but we're trying stuff out, and it's nice to have more brains in the pool.
I love the direction that Nelson took that story, because he was like, what if I just make a lot of philosophy jokes? And I was like, yeah.
I appreciate it.
Be free, this is great.
Yeah.
My thing was just like, is this like a freaky weird thing for like Mario? Does Mario want you to feel his pain? Like, could this be a sex thing? And then I think Nelson's direction was a lot better.
The ESA thing. This is I was talking with Paul about this. It's so frustrating looking at like this meeting, because the way that Paul described it is like the ESA is arguing from the perspective of this is a negotiation with someone trying to build a streaming service, like a for-profit streaming service.
Yeah.
And everyone else in this panel was like, bro, we're libraries. We're trying to preserve your work. And the ESA was like, I don't think so. And it's so galling.
Yeah.
The Embracer thing was really funny.
Yes.
As well. I like that the way that you worded it. Just the way that you ordered it was Middle Earth and Friends gets Dead Island, Killing Floor, Lord of the Rings, Metro, Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
I forgot that Tomb Raider's over there now, because Tomb Raider for a while was with
Eidos Montreal.
Yeah, and then it was Square until fairly recently, and then Square sold it to Embracer as part of a package with some other stuff, and I don't know. And then now Embracer's taken away the pinups. The most recent patch of the I feel like this is a bizarre error, but the most recent patch of like the Tomb Raider What's It edition has there's a room, I can't even remember where in the games this is, but there's like a room with a couple like pinup posters of Lara. I don't know why. Is it Lara's house? Why does she have pinup? I mean, if you're proud of yourself
and you're proud of yourself.
But anyway, the latest patch that fixed a bunch of like mechanical things, also these posters are gone, and people are like, no, why? Which
my
is
cheesecake.
Yeah, but like everything else is my 28 pixel wide cheesecake. Everything else in this game is being very faithful to the original. So like I feel like that's just a weird whoopsie error, but they haven't addressed it yet. And I am not desperate for them to, frankly. I'm sure it'll get patched back in.
Realistically, it was just sort of male gazy and gross in the original.
Yeah, but I mean, they already have a thing at the beginning of the game that was like, hey, there's some stuff in this game that we wouldn't put in the game now, but we're not going to change the game. So you know, observe what it was like in its time, and we can all learn from this, right? So like that's already on the Tomb Raider collection. So, and considering some of the stuff that predicated that message, I think they can leave in some profoundly non-nude Lara cheesecake poses.
Yes.
I like that we were able to bookend today's episode of Checkpoint with armadillos.
Oh, yeah.
I just realized this. I love the old Infogrames logo. Their new one's fine too. I'm glad that they stuck with an armadillo. I don't know why. Are they native to France?
I don't think so.
Looking at the evolution of the Infogrames logo,
It's neat.
I'm not entirely sure if it was supposed to be an armadillo to begin with, or whether it was just like this, the swirly thing. And then at some point someone was like, hey, that kind of looks like an armadillo. And they just like leaned into that.
Yeah.
Or whether it was supposed to be an armadillo originally, but it was just like more swirly. I don't know. But yeah, they really went for it.
Maybe if we brush the scoots off of Infogrames, we can protect ourselves from Atari. Patreon.com/LoganRun for more jokes like this, or you can become a member on this channel. Shout outs at the end of the episode to those members thus far. I have nothing else to contribute today, I think.
I have already contributed far too little.
Great. Goodbye, everybody.
Habada baba.
Hakata baba.
Habada baba.